There's no holiday truce in sight on Capitol Hill. A faction of Senate Democrats are making their move against their own leaders. They're calling it the Fight Club. The ringleaders, Vermont's Bernie Sanders and Massachusetts' Elizabeth Warren. Also in the Fight Club, Senators Chris Van Hollen from Connecticut, Chris Murphy, and Tina Smith. The coalition isn't just opposing Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, though, in his midterm strategy. They're also aiming their fury at New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who leads the party's Senate campaign arm. And the fight is playing out all across the country. The party's progressive wing is backing like-minded primary challengers against establishment-backed Democrats. And the message is clear. Progressives, they want new leadership. They want new strategy. And the old guard is out.
Chuck Schumer's generation, Nancy Pelosi's generation, John Lewis's generation, they have so much to be proud of. It is time, though, for new leadership.
Do you think Democrats around the country think that Chuck Schumer should be the face of the future of the Democratic Party?
The stakes are life and death. And that means that we want to make sure that we have Democratic leadership that is strong enough to withstand that.
One of the first things I've said I will do is vote against Senator Schumer.
Power panel now. Matt Gorman, Republican strategist, and Madeline Somerville, Democratic strategist. Thank you very much for both of you coming on today. Matt, I'll start with you. It is not looking good for Chuck Schumer when there are so many Democrats that are railing against him. The Fight Club title is a bit cute, but it's also a bit scary for Chuck Schumer.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is really as much of a faction as it is a vote of no confidence in Schumer's leadership. And what has Schumer really done over the last year is, the leftists have been screaming and foaming at the mouth since Trump got elected again. He's been trying to masquerade as one of them. He's been caving to them at every opportunity, but they don't trust him still. And at the end of this rope, in 2028, I ultimately don't think he runs for re-election again. And I think you could see someone like an AOC. I don't think she runs for the Senate seat. She doesn't need it. She doesn't need that megaphone. But this is going to play out very much in the presidential race, of which I could see AOC being a part of.
I mean, Madeline, there is talk of AOC possibly going for his seat, or she may just jump right into the next presidential election. Who knows? But where do you see this going?
Yeah, I don't think AOC is quite ready. I don't think the party or the country is quite ready for her to jump into that seat. But I do find this very interesting and intriguing. Here's why. So when I was a speechwriter in the Georgia State Senate, I remember seeing the party's platform written out. It was, we believe that everyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic status, should have access to safe housing, healthcare, food to eat, place to sleep in, that's safe and accessible and affordable. So I would write all my speeches to that platform, and they would edit it down. They said my language was too harsh because it would upset the donors or something like that if it was too harsh. This has been the problem, is that this establishment class, this Democrat class, has been compromising their values, exactly what they stand for, and they write down for me to look at, right, the staff to write speeches to. They're compromising that. And I think that this new generation of people, which is funny because Cory Booker thinks that he's not in that older generation, this new generation is tired of compromising your values for the sake of donors. President Trump proved that you don't have to out fundraise the other side in order to win. So I'm thrilled with this change.
Okay, I want to read this poll. The Democratic Party definitely needs to do something about public opinion, obviously. And there are multiple polls, in fact, over the last month or so that show voters expressing record low favorability toward the party. And just brutal numbers, in fairness. Republicans aren't faring a whole lot better in the polls. But Democrats are the ones who need to make gains in the midterms, given the GOP controls the White House and both chambers of Congress, albeit by narrow margins. So, Matt, what's going to happen when it comes to Chuck Schumer? Because if you look at the midterms, it's not looking good. And he really hasn't done much. He just seems to take the pulpit and talk a lot, but doesn't really move forward. And I would say that the government shutdown is probably the last straw, quite frankly. I mean, we're talking about Thanksgiving travel and airports already having 1,400 delays today. They're playing catch up because of all the air traffic controller and the mess that's been happening at our nation's airports. And Chuck Schumer is part of the problem.
He is. And look on the Senate map, for instance, for about a decade now, he runs retread candidates that have already lost statewide, from Ted Strickland, Evan Bayh, Sherrod Brown is running again. People who have already been rejected by the voters, he tries to push them and give them another go. Janet Mills is very out of step with the party. She's trying to run in Maine, but last I saw, down by 30 points to Graham Plattner and his so-called Nazi tattoos. I also think, to Madeline's point, the establishment has burned so much credibility during the presidential nominating fights of both 20, when they all banded together at the last minute to try and prevent Bernie from getting the nomination, and 24, when they essentially fixed it so that Biden would hand it off to Harris without any dissent in any open primary. Come 2026 in these Senate races, but also 2028 in the presidential, you're going to have that fight out in the open. They're not going to have the credibility to draw from when they need it again.
All right. Matt Gorman, Madeline Somerville, thank you both for coming on. Happy Thanksgiving to you both.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.